Chosen ones, listen closely. This is not just another warning. It is a lifeline. The 17th of September is not an ordinary date on a calendar. It is a line in the sand. A moment of divine precision, where what is nearest to you may not be safest for you. The very person you love, the one you trust most, could unknowingly carry the spark that disrupts your alignment. It won't come with noise. It won't arrive in chaos. It will come softly, through closeness, through an embrace, through words that seem innocent but carry weight you cannot afford to carry right now. If you've felt the whisper in your spirit telling you to guard your heart, to stay quiet, to protect your atmosphere, you are not imagining it. You are being preserved, not punished. And on the 17th of September, that preservation could make the difference between rising and stumbling. Do not underestimate the quiet battles. Chosen ones, they are often the most dangerous. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and say thank you from the depths of my heart to everyone who has stood with this channel, especially those who've poured out love through super thanks. Your support means more than words. And if this message is already stirring something in you, go ahead and comment 777 below as a declaration that your spirit will remain guarded and your protection sealed, because in a moment, we will uncover why this warning matters and how to stand firm with grace. When the test comes knocking softly on the 17th of September, stay with me. What you hear next may save you from what you never saw coming. God's chosen ones, do not let the person you trust most near you on the 17th of September. You may begin to sense it in ways so subtle that others would dismiss it. A shift in the tone when your name is spoken. A pause too long in a conversation that should have felt ordinary. A heaviness in a message that once would have passed unnoticed. What is it that makes your spirit suddenly alert, even though no clear evidence is before your eyes? Scripture reminds us, by their fruits you will recognize them. Matthew 7:16. It is not always about what is being said, but about the current of energy, intention, and hidden memory riding beneath the words. The weight of expectation lingers like smoke in the air, and your spirit knows when the atmosphere has shifted. The 17th of September was never meant as a day of confrontation. It is a day of recognition, a mirror showing how far you have come. It is not about waiting for others to explain themselves, but about perceiving the alignment of heaven within your own body. In this stillness, you learn that discernment is sharper than explanation. In the past, you might have folded yourself small to make others feel comfortable. You might have let people remain close simply because they had access, not because they proved worthy of your trust. But what happens when growth demands you no longer shrink? King David faced this same moment when Saul, once a trusted figure, turned his heart against him. And yet, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. The chosen must learn that access is not entitlement. Trust is not an inheritance for the nearest hand. It is a sacred gift given by discernment. Growth forces you to measure relationships not by history, but by fruit. And when the season shifts, will you be able to release those who once carried you, but now weigh you down? The very strength of covenant often reveals itself through the courage to walk away. Now, you are different. Or perhaps it is better said, you are becoming different. The shift is quiet, like roots deepening in secret soil. It does not announce itself loudly, but it demands your protection. Just as Nehemiah refused to come down from the wall when his enemies called for distraction, you must also refuse to leave your place of clarity. You don't need to slam doors or raise your voice. What if the true power lies not in cutting people off, but in staying where the air is clear, where your nervous system is no longer decoding someone else's chaos? Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Every wall you guard is not isolation, but insulation, an architecture of protection that heaven itself is teaching you to build. Could it be that solitude is not punishment, but preservation for the battles ahead? In the world of art and leadership, voices have testified to this truth. The painter Pablo Picasso once said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." But how can you give your gift if you constantly pour it into hands that drain rather than steward? On the other side of history, villains have shown us the cost of misplaced trust. Consider Marcus Junius Brutus, the Roman senator who betrayed Julius Caesar. Though cloaked in friendship, his dagger ended a leader's reign. Betrayal often wears the mask of closeness, and its consequence is always destruction. And are we not warned in Scripture that even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me? Psalm 41:9. These reminders are not written to breed paranoia, but to awaken discernment. When you know that trust misplaced can ruin a birth, you learn to guard the garden of your heart more carefully. Sometimes the testing comes not with hostility, but with innocence. The person closest to you, with the kindest smile or the most innocent question, may not even realize they are the vessel carrying pressure to test your discernment. But will you listen to the whisper in your chest? Will you recognize the sacred yes or no beating within your own spirit? Guard your heart above all else, for it is the wellspring of life. Proverbs 4:23. The whisper is heaven's architecture of protection. It may feel like weakness to step back quietly, but in truth it is strength, clothed in humility. What would happen if you began treating your inner no as a divine shield rather than a personal discomfort? To ignore it is to risk being pierced by arrows you were already warned about. Nature itself preaches this wisdom. The stag in the forest does not bolt at every sound, but when the faintest crack of a twig carries the frequency of danger, its body responds before the eyes confirm. Should your spirit not do the same? Why question the God-given sensitivity that keeps you safe when the season turns? On the 17th of September, the atmosphere is not random, it is precise. A divine frequency echoing through your inner being. When the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. The waves of discernment are like sound frequencies, invisible to the eye, but powerful enough to shake entire structures. In physics, resonance occurs when a system vibrates at its natural frequency. So too does your spirit resonate when truth is present or violated. And are you not built as a temple whose very walls are tuned to God's vibration? And here lies the choice before you. Will you cling to the illusion of comfort, or will you rise into the clarity you've been prepared for? Will you give your ear to every voice, or will you treasure the silence that keeps you whole? Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. 1 Peter 5-8. This is not the time to dismiss what heaven is revealing. This is the time to stand. For silence is no longer survival, it is strategy. The chosen are not called to collapse, but to carry. They are not called to bow to pressure, but to embody presence. The 17th of September is your marker in the sand, your covenant reminder that discernment is protection. Chosen ones, hear this: your discernment is not paranoia, it is prophecy. Your hesitation is not weakness, it is wisdom. Your boundary is not cruelty, it is covenant. Rise with the authority given to you. Do not let the person you trust most sit too close on the 17th of September if heaven is signaling otherwise. Rise into your protection. Rise into your discernment. Rise into your freedom. And when the history of this season is written, it will not be recorded that you were deceived. It will testify that you saw clearly, that you guarded well, and that you stood in the strength of the Lord. Even when logic whispers that you are overreacting, your spirit knows the price of ignoring its own alarm. What if the very thing that feels sweet or nostalgic is actually the net designed to slow you down? What if the invitation that feels wrapped in love carries the weight of pressure, not peace? Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. 1 John 4:1. The presence that once felt like safety may now feel too loud for the journey ahead. How can you afford to dismiss the inner witness that warns before the storm? There is no drama in choosing stillness. There is no cruelty in choosing space. And you do not owe anyone the version of yourself that belonged to a previous chapter. That version is dissolving now quietly, elegantly, without needing to justify itself. And what replaces it cannot be handled by everyone. That is why the test is subtle. Those who once held your hand may now be pressing your buttons, not because they despise you, but because they only remember the rhythm of the person you used to be. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Isaiah 43:18-19. Will you allow the noise of yesterday to dictate the clarity of today? On the 17th of September, the assignment is simple but holy. Do not confuse closeness with safety. The ones who have the greatest access to your heart also carry the greatest ability to shape your frequency. What enters your space becomes part of your field, like seeds carried by the wind that either nourish the soil or poison it. And just as a mighty oak tree cannot allow every creeping vine to entangle its trunk, you too cannot let every presence root itself in your atmosphere. The tree survives by shedding branches that no longer bear fruit, and so must you. This new layer of you, the one being born in silence, cannot afford to be shaken by familiar energy. Not today. Perhaps not ever again. If hesitation arises in your chest before answering a call, that hesitation is wisdom. If retreat feels necessary, it is protection. If your heart longs to explain the distance, breathe instead and let the boundary speak louder than your words. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything more comes from evil. Matthew 5:37. Why keep defending the very shield that God Himself is placing over you? Strength is found in silence. And silence is not absence, it is authority. Some will misunderstand your silence. Some will call it cold. Let them. Your identity was never meant to be verified by their understanding. This is not the season for being explained, it is the season for being preserved. You are not here to soothe the confusion of others. You are here to walk with divine precision. And precision requires space. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in His way. Psalm 37:23. Why give your steps away to those who have not earned the right to walk beside you? Especially beware of those who think they know you best. What they know is only the version they once had access to, and that access has now expired. This isn't about revenge or rejection, it's about reverence. Reverence for the work God is doing in silence. Reverence for the seed of destiny planted deep in your soil. The wrong energy, even if wrapped in good intentions, can cloud the sacred growth within you. Even Shakespeare, in King Lear, penned the warning of misplaced trust through the betrayal of daughters who spoke of love but acted with greed. Their words sounded sweet, but their fruit was bitter, and it cost the king his kingdom. Shouldn't you also discern between flattery and truth? So you step back, you get quiet, you protect the stillness, not because you are angry, but because you are aware. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This awareness, this decision to remain centered when someone close reaches for you, is the moment everything shifts. On the 17th of September, the energy around you will not merely be emotional, it will be cosmic. The moon will be swollen with heaviness, drawing hidden things to the surface. And just as the tide cannot resist the pull of the heavens, so too will hidden motives rise where they can be seen. Will you have the courage to remain unshaken when they appear? Chosen ones, rise. This is your moment of separation. This is your day of clarity. Your silence is your shield. Your distance is your wisdom. And your reverence is your authority. Do not let the closest presence undo the work God has been quietly building within you. Walk forward intact. Walk forward guarded. Walk forward victorious. The sun, steady and sharp, will not simply shine, it will separate. It will spotlight what is real and expose what no longer resonates with the person you are becoming. This day is not for the world's applause, but for your own unveiling. The moment you see yourself as heaven already sees you, when someone reaches for you, especially someone familiar, the encounter will not be small, it will be a crossroads. What happens when a hand that once comforted you now feels like a rope pulling you backward? Everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. Ephesians 5:13. To stand in that light requires courage, because recognition always asks you to decide. Every turning point with God demands that you see your reflection without the filters of nostalgia or fear. You will feel the pull to respond, to soothe, to explain, to reassure with words like, "I'm okay," even when your soul trembles with uncertainty. Yet silence on this day is not avoidance, it is alignment. You are not rejecting the other, you are respecting the atmosphere God has placed around you. Every word released into this sensitive field will ripple like a stone cast into still water. And once the ripples spread, they cannot be pulled back. Isn't it wiser to guard your river than to let another stir its depths? Set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the door of my lips. Psalm 141:3. To choose silence here is not weakness, but mastery, like a warrior, knowing when to hold his sword rather than strike. That is why the highest choice may feel like nothing at all. Not a quick reply, not the comfort, not the words designed to ease another's tension. The highest choice is space, stillness, the quiet honor of trusting that truth arrives only when it can hold its own weight. This is not spiritual theater, it is spiritual precision. Even nature testifies. A butterfly's wings may seem fragile, yet if touched before the right moment, its ability to fly is ruined. So too are your words on the 17th of September. They must not be rushed, because a premature sentence could misalign the frequency you worked so long to protect, and are not the most powerful symphonies marked not by constant sound, but by holy pauses that give meaning to the music. On this day, the wrong word, even gently spoken, could realign your entire atmosphere back toward places you already outgrew. That is why the invitation will not come like thunder, but like a whisper, a message, a check-in, a soft question that sounds like love, but does not carry alignment. And can love without alignment really lead you to God's destiny? Alignment, not sentiment, is your compass. The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Psalm 37:23. like the tides pulled by the moon. Emotions will stir memories. The sun will spotlight doubts. And you may feel raw. Even if nothing external is wrong, the veil is thin, and sensitivity is sharpened for your protection. Discernment is not given to isolate you. It is given to crown you with wisdom that preserves your inheritance. Your intuition will roar louder than your logic. And you are meant to listen. You are meant to move slowly, to hold your frequency steady while the atmosphere rearranges itself around you. Someone might call your name in a familiar tone. Someone might whisper, "I need you," at precisely the wrong time. And everything in you will want to respond out of habit. But pause. What if that reflex is your old self calling, not your new self rising? My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. Shouldn't you discern which voice is truly calling you? To obey the wrong voice is to rehearse yesterday, but to heed the right one is to step into tomorrow. This moment demands the strength of pause. Breathe. Ask the question. Heaven is pressing into your spirit. Is this moment for me, or for who I used to be? That question clears fog like dawn burning through the mist. Because on this day, every response carries weight, emotional weight, energetic weight, even spiritual weight. And what you respond to, you give permission to enter. If you answer too quickly, are you not building a bridge back to rooms you no longer belong in? If the version of you now emerging would never sit in that conversation, why would you keep its door open? What you allow into your field today will shape the fruit you reap tomorrow. The arts whisper this same truth. In Handel's Messiah, the chorus thundered, "For the Lord God omnipotent reigneth." Those words, carried by music, shake every atmosphere they touch because they are released in alignment with heaven's power. Likewise, your silence on the 17th of September is not emptiness, it is resonance, like an organ in a cathedral that waits for the right key to release its thunder. You too must wait until your words match the weight of heaven. True authority is never rushed. It is revealed at the right frequency, at the right time. Chosen ones, rise. This is your divine appointment. This is your day of holy restraint and sharpened clarity. Your silence is not absence, it is authority. Your restraint is not weakness, it is wisdom. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. On the 17th of September, protect your field, guard your frequency, and walk in reverence. Do not confuse noise for necessity. Do not confuse closeness for covenant. Stand intact, unshaken, and aligned with heaven's rhythm. And when you walk forward from this day, history will record not what you said, but how powerfully you refused to be shaken. And in that stillness, God Himself will speak louder than any explanation you could ever give. If the answer is no, then don't go. Don't reply. Don't explain. Let the silence be the statement. Let the pause be your protection. Let the space you hold become the altar for who you are becoming. And anyone who is truly meant to walk with you, they will either understand or learn in time. Better is a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. Proverbs 16:8. Isn't it truer that silence often builds stronger walls than words ever could? Your stillness is not absence, it is architecture. The invisible scaffolding heaven uses to prepare your next level. You are not being asked to disappear. You are being asked to choose discernment over reaction. On any other day, that message might mean nothing. But on the 17th of September, it might become the anchor that drags you back into waters you've already swum out of. You've worked too hard to filter your atmosphere this clean. Why return to the very frequency that once distorted your soul? Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Romans 12:2. In psychological terms, this is boundary reinforcement, the mind reclaiming agency where it once yielded to pressure. Discernment is the neurological reset of a soul realigned with God's voice. Don't let familiarity become the door through which confusion walks back in. Hold your ground. Let the moon stir your inner waters, but don't let it spill you. Let the sun expose what is fading, but don't chase the light in someone else's eyes when you carry your own. And perhaps, just perhaps, the most powerful act you will perform that day is nothing at all. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Isn't it stunning that stillness can wage war words never could? In physics, this is resonance, the alignment of frequencies so precise that silence itself shakes structures more than noise. You'll notice it as the hours move differently, bending in ways ordinary days never do. Time itself will seem elastic, both fast and slow, like a paradox of eternity invading the moment. You'll look at the clock and realize hours have passed in what felt like minutes, or maybe the opposite. Each moment stretches like an echo in a canyon, demanding you hear the undertones rather than the surface. What if this strange bending of time is heaven giving you margin to hear more clearly? With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. 2 Peter 3:8. Time is not your master, it is God's servant, reshaped for your awakening. You'll walk through familiar spaces, but they will not feel the same. Something about the way people speak to you, or don't. Something about the energy they bring with them, or the weight they leave behind. The air itself will feel heavier, as if invisible structures are shifting. In architecture, the foundation is tested most, not during its building, but when weight presses upon it. The 17th of September will test your foundation. Will you stand, or will you bend to the pressure of voices that no longer resonate with your blueprint? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. And here, real life testifies as well. The Italian conductor Arturo Toscanini, one of history's greatest masters of silence and sound, once said, "The most perfect music is the silence between the notes." He was reminding us that restraint is not emptiness but power. Your silence on this day is the divine pause between movements in the symphony of your life. And what if the music of heaven only plays clearly when you learn to hold that pause? Chosen ones, rise. This is your assignment. This is your unveiling. Do not explain away what God is exposing. Do not dilute the clarity you have fought for. Your silence is your fortress. Your pause is your proclamation. And your stillness is your shield. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. 1 Corinthians 16:13. The 17th of September is not about being passive. It is about being precise. Rise into your authority. Rise into your discernment. Rise into your becoming, not in a dark way, but in a present way. You will feel yourself more fully than you have in years. Your thoughts will echo longer, almost as if the walls of your mind have been stretched into a cathedral where every whisper reverberates with meaning. Your emotions may linger without any clear cause, but what if the lingering is not weakness? It is evidence that your spirit is slowing down enough to listen. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Psalm 37:7. This day is not about fixing, not about explaining. It is about witnessing. Witnessing how close you came to slipping into an old pattern and didn't. Witnessing how you longed to say yes and yet chose silence instead. You may find yourself staying in place when every instinct once trained you to flee. Or you may find yourself walking away, not in anger, but with nothing but peace in your hands. And yes, there may be someone who circles back, someone who has grown accustomed to your immediate responses, someone who interprets your silence as a wound or a problem. They will ask with concern, "Is everything okay?" But what if? For the first time, the truth is, yes, everything is finally okay. Because this time, you are not handing out access simply because someone reached for it. You are no longer smoothing over moments to keep an illusion alive. Let your yes be yes and your no, no. Matthew 5:30. Isn't it time to honor clarity more than comfort? You are not nodding along simply to keep the rhythm of a fragile connection alive. You are not shrinking yourself to stay soft. You are not offering an outdated version of yourself just to maintain peace that only ever existed on the surface. On this day, you are not bending to meet anyone else's demand. You are rooted. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in Him. They will be like a tree planted by the water. Its leaves are always green. Jeremiah 17:7-8. Being rooted will feel unfamiliar at first. It may even feel selfish. But what if this so-called selfishness is actually sacred, self-honoring the way God teaches you to protect what He planted in you? Real life testifies to this lesson as well. The American poet and activist Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." Her wisdom reminds us that discernment is not cruelty, it is survival. How many times have you ignored the signs, only to reap the pain later? To live rooted is to finally believe what God and your spirit have been showing you all along. And history reminds us through its villains too. Consider Delilah, who spoke words of love to Samson while scheming for his downfall. Her betrayal did not appear violent at first. It was gentle, wrapped in care, but it robbed him of his strength. What did her story teach us, if not this, that closeness without covenant destroys? Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Shouldn't her legacy caution you against mistaking intimacy for loyalty? Some people will fall quiet too, sensing the shift within you. Others will push, whether gently or firmly, trying to pull you back into familiar closeness. But closeness that costs clarity is not care. It is comfort masquerading as love. And the Spirit of God is calling you into more than comfort. He is calling you into a covenant. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in Him, and He helps me. Psalm 28:7. So what if the most radical choice you make on the 17th of September is to remain unmoved, rooted in a strength they can't explain, chosen ones? Hear this. Your stillness is not weakness, it is warfare. Your silence is not empty, it is sacred. Your rootedness is not selfish, it is survival. This is the day heaven invites you to stop bowing to false peace and start standing in holy clarity. Rise into it, protect it, live it, and let the record of your life show that when others tried to bend you back, you stood firm and unshaken in God's presence. And comfort isn't always what you need, especially not today. Because what is growing inside you is not meant to be comforted, it is meant to be carried. And growth of this kind can only be nourished in peace, real peace. Not silence covered with obligation, not connection paid for with fragments of your energy, but peace born from stillness, from aloneness, from the holy choice not to respond just because you can. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. John 14:27. Can you see now that comfort without covenant is only noise, while peace is presence? If there's a knot in your stomach before you reply, That is not indecision. That is your body, knowing what your words haven't yet caught up to. If there's a pause in your chest before you say yes, that is not hesitation. It is your boundary arriving before your voice does. You were never called to carry guilt for choosing space. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. On this day, even hesitation is holy, because it is heaven's way of saying, slow down, protect the soil. Could it be that what feels like delay is actually your spirit building an altar of safety? Not when everything in the air is asking you to be still enough to hear what's coming next, not when even the sun seems to stretch its hours, casting longer shadows so you can finally see what has been hidden beneath them all along. Not when the moon's pull feels so deep it draws out aches you thought you buried. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Psalm 19:1. Nature itself bends in witness to your discernment. Do rivers not carve valleys through centuries of patience? Do mountains not stand firm though winds rage around them? Why should your soul not also find strength in waiting? It is okay to let someone you love sit in your silence. It is okay not to be available, not to soften your truth, just to preserve a rhythm that no longer matches your pace. To love them from a distance for a day, a week, or even a season is not betrayal. It is reverence. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. 1 Corinthians 13:6. Love that requires you to shrink was never love. It was memory disguised as connection. And you are not called to be remembered as you were. You are called to become what you were never allowed to be before. What happens when the chrysalis finally refuses to remain wrapped and the butterfly stretches its wings? Transformation cannot be reversed. So when that message comes, and it will let it sit, let it breathe. You don't have to respond. You don't have to explain the pull towards solitude. If they are meant to walk with you into your becoming, they will understand the space you need to get there. And if they don't, then you will understand something else, that not every companion is meant for every chapter. Two cannot walk together unless they are agreed. Amos 3:3. The silence you keep on this day is not the absence of love. It is the architecture of covenant. The great works of art and drama remind us of this. In T.S. In Eliot's play Murder in the Cathedral, the Archbishop Thomas Becket declares before his martyrdom, "The last temptation is the greatest treason, to do the right deed for the wrong reason. So too for you, on the 17th of September, the wrong reply, even if spoken in kindness, can realign you with a version of yourself that no longer exists. Better to remain silent than to move out of step with the Spirit. Chosen ones, rise. This is not the day for performance. It is the day for precision, not the day for appeasement, but for alignment. Your silence is not weakness, it is authority. Your stillness is not avoidance, it is revelation. Stand firm in it. Hold your peace and walk forward unshaken, and let it be known that on this day you chose covenant over comfort, alignment over applause, and destiny over distraction. And that kind of clarity only comes in silence. You may not even realize the shift as it unfolds. There will be no trumpet sounding, no flash of lightning, no clear line between before and after. But later, in the evening, or perhaps in the quiet of the next morning, you will sense it, a strange lightness, a holy certainty that something passed over you and you did not get caught in it. This time the current did not carry you. You stood still. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Isn't it powerful that victory sometimes looks like restraint rather than reaction? You let the wave break around you instead of through you. And in the closeness, you resisted. You discovered something startling. It did not destroy the bond. If anything, it revealed its strength. Because anything real can hold a little distance. Anything true doesn't demand constant access. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. 1 Corinthians 13:4. Shouldn't love be able to wait through silence without unraveling? What if the very act of stepping back is what proves what was authentic all along? Anything sacred will respect your silence. And if it couldn't withstand the quiet, then it was never meant to survive. Not every connection can journey with you into the next season. The 17th of September is not about serving everyone. It is about sorting between the voices that grow softer when you need stillness and those that grow louder to demand your attention. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. Matthew 7:6. In Psychology. This is boundary differentiation, the sacred recognition that clarity is found in separation, not constant merging. Doesn't even the architecture of heaven have gates, courts, and inner chambers, revealing that not every voice is permitted into the Holy of Holies? You will notice the difference more clearly now, not because you set out to judge, but because silence itself is a mirror, and in that mirror, you saw the people who kept showing up without demanding, the ones who backed away gracefully, the ones who respected the quiet, and the ones who kept knocking only to hear the sound of themselves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Matthew 7:16. Silence is not emptiness, it is data. It shows you who values presence and who only values access. Isn't it better to know now than to discover later at a greater cost? In the world, voices have echoed this same truth. The German-born architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, one of the pioneers of modern design, famously said, "Less is more." He wasn't speaking of emptiness but of structure, that true beauty is revealed not in excess but in precision. In the same way, your silence on this day is not absence, it is architecture. You are building walls, windows, and sacred boundaries in the temple of your becoming. Without them, your soul's foundation could never endure the weight of destiny. Chosen ones, rise. The 17th of September is not about reaction, it is about revelation. Your silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Your pause is not avoidance, it is authority. Be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. 1 Corinthians 16:13. The mirror of silence has shown you the truth. Now walk forward with courage. Do not chase voices that cannot endure the quiet. Stand rooted, stand discerning, and stand victorious. And maybe, for the very first time, you will stop feeling guilty about how little you gave in return, because what you offered yourself, that stillness, that space, that protection, was everything you once believed you were not allowed to ask for. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. Psalm 23:1. Isn't it true that giving yourself rest is often the most radical act of obedience? It is not easy to remain quiet when the world expects a quick answer. When someone you care about leans in with questions and you feel your own energy leaning away. Why is it that silence feels heavier than speech? Even though silence is often the voice of heaven, only this you know: if you said yes in that moment, something fragile inside you might bend the wrong way. And so, you don't. You simply don't. The moment passes, and you are still intact. Later, you will look back and realize that was the turning point. That was the day you chose not to abandon yourself to be understood. That was the day you refused to open the door out of guilt. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Proverbs 29:25. Isn't it better to stay rooted in peace than to be pulled into someone else's storm? It was also the day you didn't invite someone back into a room they no longer belonged in, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally understood what true care is. About them, about yourself, about what is unfolding in silence. You learned something holy in the quiet, that presence is not proof of love. That response is not a requirement for care. Sometimes, the most loving act you can offer yourself and others is to say nothing, to step back, to let time and distance do the sorting that words would only complicate. A time to be silent and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes 3:7. Doesn't even Scripture remind us that silence is part of wisdom? And this truth is echoed in the world as well. The French painter Claude Monet once said, "My garden is my most beautiful masterpiece." His words remind us that beauty grows in protected silence, not in constant explanation. In the same way, your peace is your masterpiece, cultivated not by endless replies, but by guarded stillness. But history also warns us through its villains. King Herod, flattered by the dance of Herodias' daughter, chose to speak rashly and promise more than wisdom allowed. His careless vow led to the beheading of John the Baptist, a righteous man. What did his story reveal? Those impulsive words spoken to appease others always come with a cost greater than silence. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Psalm 141:3. Isn't Herod's downfall proof that silence would have preserved what speech destroyed? And as the energy of the 17th of September fades, as the night settles softly over you, you will know you have passed through something sacred. You will feel stronger, not loud, strong, but rooted strong. Your thoughts will be clearer, your body calmer, your heart steady. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. You did not need to defend yourself. You did not need to reply. You only needed to remain still. And heaven proved that stillness was enough. Chosen ones, this is your victory. To guard your silence is to guard your destiny. To protect your boundaries is to protect your covenant. Do not feel guilty for standing firm. Feel grateful for passing through unchanged. Rise now, not into noise, but into clarity, not into guilt, but into grace. The 17th of September is your marker, your testimony, your strength. You didn't need to fix the discomfort of your silence. You only needed to stay where you were in that rare, holy space between old reflex and new knowing. That in-between moment became the very altar of your transformation. That was where the shift happened. That was where you honored the invitation to rise. And now that you have seen what silence truly holds, you will never forget how powerful it felt to say nothing at all. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Lamentations 3:25. Doesn't waiting sometimes speak louder than words ever could? Because today was never about teaching anyone else a lesson. It was about remembering your own. You remembered that your peace does not need an audience to be real. You remembered that your intuition does not require a courtroom to prove itself. And you remembered that energy never lies. When it feels off even from someone close, it is not rebellion to step back. It is obedience. That step is not rejection. It is protection. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast. Isaiah 26:3. Could it be that every pause is heaven's shield stretching over you? On days like this, protection is not optional, it is sacred. The 17th of September carried a specific charge, subtle yet unmistakable. You may have felt it the moment you woke up, a heaviness in the air, a strange tension in your chest, an unseen hand urging you to measure each step carefully. Conversations that once flowed like streams suddenly felt dammed. Interactions left you drained instead of filled. Even the faces you trusted most revealed expressions you weren't prepared to see. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Matthew 26-41. Isn't it striking that spiritual tension often reveals itself through ordinary encounters? None of this was random. This is the ripple of something larger. A spiritual pressure point amplified by unseen shifts. Nature itself testifies, just as a tectonic plate shifts silently beneath the earth and produces a quake that reshapes the land, so too does a spiritual tremor rearrange your inner world. Just as trees shed leaves when the season demands it, so must you release what no longer belongs in your atmosphere. And just as the tides obey the gravity of the moon, so must your spirit obey the pull of alignment. By their fruit you will recognize them. Matthew 7:16. Why cling to branches that no longer bear fruit? The arts echo this truth. In Beethoven's Symphony No. Woo, the opening notes strike like fate, knocking on the door, subtle yet unrelenting. That same knock resounds on the 17th of September. The atmosphere demanded alignment, not performance. And you, chosen one, answered not by playing louder, but by stepping into silence. Like the rests between the notes in Beethoven's score, your pause became the very heartbeat of your power. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Isn't it extraordinary that silence is not emptiness but music only heaven can hear? Chosen ones, rise. This was your day of discernment, your moment of holy restraint. You have seen what silence births. You have felt what stillness shields. Your protection is not weakness, it is wisdom. Your pause is not loss, it is alignment. The 17th of September will be remembered, not as the day you retreated, but as the day you stood firm. Step forward now with clarity, carrying the peace that guarded you, and let the world learn that you did not survive by speaking louder. You overcame by standing still. Meanwhile, the moon continues to move with intensity, stirring emotional layers you once believed were already resolved. These two forces, the solar clarity and the lunar exposure, combine to form a mirror that does not blink. And when the light hits just right, even those you love most can cast a shadow you didn't expect. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Could it be that God uses even the light of others to reveal the parts of you that still need release? That is why today, more than most, you may have found yourself needing space. And if you haven't taken it yet, it is not too late. You can still pull back, not in anger, but in awareness. Your nervous system knows when something is off. It interprets frequencies faster than your logic can explain. In neuroscience, this is called somatic intelligence, the body remembering truth before the mind catches up. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. Romans 8:16. Isn't it extraordinary that your spirit and even your body bear witness to what your mouth cannot yet say? Don't try to explain it away. You don't owe anyone your emotional availability. Not today. Not when the energy is this sharp. Not when you are this close to shedding something that has clung to you for far too long. In physics, resonance happens when two frequencies align, but what happens when a foreign vibration tries to shake you out of harmony? That's why boundaries are not cruelty, they are insulation. Above all else, guard your heart. for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. Why let someone else's disharmony pull you out of the rhythm heaven has set? Yes, it might confuse others, it might even sting them a little, but their confusion is not your responsibility. Your clarity is. You are not here to absorb everyone's energy simply to maintain peace that was never real. You are here to protect what is rising within you. And right now, it is rising quickly. In architecture, the higher the tower is built, the deeper its foundation must be. So too, with your growth, it demands structure, reinforcement, and the strength to withstand pressure. The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down. Proverbs 14:1. Isn't silence sometimes the very stone in the foundation that keeps the house standing? That kind of growth needs boundaries. It needs quiet. It needs time. So if your heart feels more guarded today, honor that. If you are not ready to answer messages, don't. If being near certain people feels like too much, it probably is. You don't need more signs. You only need to trust what you already feel. Even in the world of leadership, this truth has been echoed. The late Apple founder Steve Jobs once remarked, "Focusing is about saying no." His entire legacy was built not on chasing every opportunity, but on guarding clarity with ruthless precision. Shouldn't your soul be treated with even greater care? Chosen ones, hear this. Your silence is not weakness, it is structure. Your distance is not rejection, it is wisdom. Your guarded heart is not fear, it is alignment. The Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace. Psalm 29:11. The 17th of September is not about pleasing the voices around you. It is about protecting the voice of God within you. Stand firm in your stillness and let heaven show you what only silence can reveal. Today isn't a day for fixing, explaining, or negotiating with your intuition. It is a day for holding it close, for letting the discomfort pass through without reacting to it. It is a day for allowing other people's emotions to remain with them, because something sacred is still unfolding in you. And you, yes, you are still becoming. The Lord will perfect that which concerns me. Psalm 138:8. Isn't it true that becoming requires silence? Not justification. The ones closest to you may not always mean harm. But on days like this, intention matters less than energy, because meaning can be disguised. But energy never lies. You felt it, didn't you? That subtle shift in tone, that small request that weighed more heavily than it should have, that conversation that left you drained far quicker than expected. It was not random. It was not a coincidence. It was a signal, a frequency only your spirit was tuned finely enough to notice. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. 1 John 4:1. Could it be that discernment has been waiting for you to stop explaining it away and finally honor it as the voice of God within you? The 17th of September did not shout. It did not arrive with spectacle, drama, or disaster. It whispered. It was revealed, and if you were paying attention, you caught it, that flicker in your chest, that weight in your gut, that unmistakable knowing that this moment is a test. Do you keep playing it like you always have? Or do you finally rise into alignment? Stand firm, and you will win life. Luke 21:19. The question pressed on you. Would you explain yourself away yet again? Or would you dare to let your silence be your shield? And so you didn't explain. You didn't chase after comfort. You didn't apologize for your silence or smooth over their discomfort. You let the moment remain unspoken, unresolved. yet unbelievably powerful. Because this time you were not looking to prove anything, you were protecting something. Your peace, your growth, your clarity, and protecting these came at a cost. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. John 14:27. How else can peace be established if not by guarding it in the moments when every part of you is tempted to break it? The world echoes this truth. The Brazilian novelist Paulo Coelho, author of The Alchemist, once wrote, "When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself." His wisdom reminds us that protecting your alignment often means disappointing others. But is it not better to disappoint people than to betray your soul? History also warns us through its villains. Pontius Pilate, faced with the decision over Jesus' fate, chose the path of appeasement over alignment. He washed his hands publicly, convincing himself he had no responsibility. But his compromise marked him forever. His name is remembered not for courage, but for surrendering to the crowd. What does his story teach us if not this? That failure to protect truth in the moment of testing becomes a legacy of regret. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Isaiah 5:20. The pull to engage was real. The temptation to soften, to return to what was familiar, knocked loudly at your door. Yet so did the realization. Not every closeness deserves continued access. Not every familiar voice is meant to walk with you into the next version of yourself. Today was surgery without knives, transformation without noise, a reshaping only silence could perform. And when you chose stillness over reaction, space over explanation, alignment over approval, something in the universe responded. Heaven bore witness. The atmosphere shifted, and your spirit stood taller than ever before. Chosen ones, rise. This is your testimony. That silence was not weakness, it was wisdom. That restraint was not avoidance, it was alignment. That your pause was not emptiness, it was prophecy. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1-9. The 17th of September will not be remembered as the day you stayed quiet, but as the day heaven announced, you have grown, you have passed, and you will never return to who you were before. The sun in Leo pushed your light forward, while the moon drew your shadows out. Together, they became a mirror. And in that reflection, you saw yourself with piercing clarity, not the version molded by others' demands, but the one you have been building in silence, strong, clear, unapologetically grounded. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1-7. So if the air felt heavier today, if conversations seemed charged, if people pressed in when all you longed for was stillness, remember this: it was never about them, it was about your becoming, your unveiling. And even the stars seemed to conspire to make sure you could no longer hide from yourself. It was about your evolution, your energetic threshold, your capacity to carry what heaven has planted within you. And as the evening softened and the weight of the day began to lift, you sensed something undeniable. A shift had occurred. You may not have the words yet, but your body knows it. A gate closed. A new space opened. And you did not just survive it, you honored it. Isn't it powerful to realize that silence can close doors more firmly than words ever could? The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm 28-7. And the shield you held today was not forged by explanation, but by restraint. That is how heaven teaches you that boundaries are divine architecture. Think about it. How many times have you brushed off that uneasy feeling when someone's tone didn't match their words? How often have you excused that subtle pull, the friend who checks in but leaves you drained? The family member who cloaks control as care? The partner who wants your presence but not your growth? Most of the time you swallowed it, called it normal, even dared to call it love. But today, especially today, heaven refused to let you excuse it anymore. By their fruit you will recognize them. Matthew 7:16. Could it be that discernment is not suspicion, but revelation? And what if ignoring that revelation is the very reason you stayed bound longer than necessary? You may have noticed it in the smallest things, the offhand comment that landed sharper than it should, the smile that felt more like a mask than warmth, the embrace that carried a hidden weight. Nature itself reflects this pattern. Just as a tree resists vines that threaten to choke its branches, so too must you resist attachments that drain rather than nourish. Just as the eagle sheds its feathers to soar higher, so too must you release what no longer aligns. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. If even creation teaches you that release is survival, will you not listen? For even the ocean must let go of the tide at night, and still it returns stronger at dawn. The great works of art whisper this truth. In verdis opera la traviata. The heroine Violetta sings of love that demands sacrifice, but when love becomes a cage, her song turns into lament. That music still reverberates through centuries as a reminder. Any love that suffocates growth is not love, but bondage. And isn't your silence today the same declaration that you will no longer bow to cages, even gilded ones? It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. Galatians 5:1. And what is a cage but an illusion of safety that kills slowly? Your refusal to enter is your loudest hymn. Chosen ones, rise. The 17th of September was not about noise, but about noticing. It was not about pleasing others, but about protecting your clarity. It was not about their expectations, but about your covenant with God. Your silence was not weakness, it was warfare. Your pause was not absence, it was authority. Walk forward now, lighter, clearer, and stronger, knowing heaven honored your restraint. The mirror has shown you who you are. Now step into it fully, without apology. And when history looks back on this day, it will record not what you withheld, but what you preserved. When your body stiffened during a casual conversation, when your chest paused as someone asked you for something simple, yet it felt like too much. That was not an accident, it was a divine signal. Your nervous system was not betraying you, it was archiving wisdom, recording resonance and dissonance like a finely tuned instrument. In physics, resonance occurs when a frequency aligns with its true note, and dissonance rattles the structure until it collapses. Could it be that what you felt was your soul's architecture, warning you that the vibration of that moment was no longer sustainable? Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. The pause was never punishment, it was information. And information, in the kingdom of God, is revelation. Not every person who begins the journey with you is meant to walk through every gate. In architecture, the higher the tower, the narrower the staircase access is reduced as elevation increases. Spiritually, this is the same. Not every voice should echo in the chambers of your ascent. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. So when today revealed familiar patterns, those subtle repetitions you once overlooked, but now blaze like red warning lights, it wasn't to shame you. It was to remind you that discernment is not suspicion. It is sight sharpened by heaven. And how many times have you confused loyalty with permission to remain bound? Think of the tension you felt in conversations that drained your center. You smiled, but your stomach clenched. You said, "I'm fine," but your soul whispered otherwise. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance, when what you express externally collides with what your inner reality screams. Yet heaven calls it alignment, trying to rescue you. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Isn't it striking that even silence can be a stronger frequency than words? When a violin stops playing, the air still trembles with resonance. Could your pause be the same heaven's echo still ringing even after your voice withdrew? This is why silence today carried weight. It wasn't avoidance, it was architecture. A wall is not built to imprison but to protect the garden within. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity. The brain rewires itself to sustain healthier patterns when old pathways are no longer reinforced. So too with your spirit. Every time you chose silence over self-betrayal, you carved a new pathway of strength. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. What if your pause was not absence, but God Himself fortifying your inner temple? The silence was scaffolding, building you brick by brick into someone who can carry greater weight without collapse. History testifies as well. Nelson Mandela, long before he was celebrated as a world leader, endured decades of silence in prison. Many thought that silence weakened him, yet Mandela later wrote that silence became his greatest teacher, shaping patience, clarity, and discipline. His life proves that silence is not always emptiness. It can be the womb of transformation. And isn't that the same womb heaven placed you in today? Could it be that what others misinterpret as withdrawal is actually gestation? You're becoming hidden until the appointed time. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Chosen one. Understand this. Today was not a random date. It was a divine checkpoint, a mirror, a calibration of frequency. You did not abandon anyone. You stopped abandoning yourself. You stepped out of old resonance into the sound of heaven's alignment. You proved that boundaries are not barriers. They are the covenant lines drawn by God's own hand. And in this decision, you ascended. You moved from reaction to authority, from noise to clarity, from guilt to glory. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. And in stillness, you have already won. That tension you've carried for so long, it feels lighter now, doesn't it? The weight of constantly managing other people's emotions, the burden of proving your worth by overgiving, is beginning to slip away. For years you may have mistaken sacrifice for love, but today heaven revealed something deeper. You never needed external validation to stand in your truth. Scripture reminds us, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Could it be that silence, rather than endless explanation, has always been your greatest shield? The 17th of September was not simply a date on the calendar, it was proof. Proof that silence can be louder than words, that alignment feels holier than approval, and that walking in divine order is more powerful than meeting human expectations. This is not the end of the lesson, chosen one, but the first real sign that you've outgrown the old reflex of abandoning yourself just to keep others comfortable. Once you've felt the gravity of that shift, once you've tasted the strength of refusing to shrink, you cannot go back. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. Deuteronomy 31:6. Do you see how even the smallest moment of resistance against manipulation marks the birth of a new you? Remember this day. The heaviness in the room, the way people's words no longer landed with the same authority. They were not accidents, they were signs, not signs meant to scare you, but signs meant to remind you you've crossed into new territory, and the old patterns can no longer hold you. In the same way that rivers carve valleys over centuries, pressure shaped you until breakthrough finally came. Every tense silence, every hidden demand from others was a marker of spiritual refinement. And when life inevitably brings you back to similar crossroads, when someone pushes too far, when the air feels thick, when silence feels like the only safe refuge, you will know exactly what to do. This is not about them anymore. It is about you, your growth, your sacred alignment. As the psalmist declared, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. What if those very silences you once hated are now the sacred battlegrounds where God is training you to stand without wavering? Here's the truth most people miss. Divine tests rarely come with thunder. They hide in the ordinary, a phone call that unsettles you, a comment that lingers in your chest, a silence that suddenly feels heavier than any word spoken. These aren't coincidences. They are the architecture of heaven, carefully designed to reveal whether you've learned to hold your energy steady without shrinking. The 17th of September wasn't pushing you to react, it was pulling you to observe, to notice, to finally see the patterns that only appear when you refuse to smooth everything over. Test all things, hold fast what is good. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Are you beginning to see the divine fingerprints in these subtle tests? And when you looked back on that day, clarity came. Who approached you with genuine care? Who cloaked their demand in kindness, only to reveal their true nature when you no longer bowed to unspoken expectations? These weren't random encounters. They were heaven's scalpel cutting through illusion. Once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize where your energy leaks, you stop bleeding yourself dry in the name of loyalty. The 17th of September was about sealing those leaks, reclaiming the life that was quietly draining from you. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. Is it not clear now that your silence is not weakness but wisdom? That your pause is not hesitation but strength? History itself affirms this pattern. Nelson Mandela, the great liberator of South Africa, once said that courage is not the absence of fear, it's inspiring others to move beyond it. His years of unjust imprisonment could have consumed him, yet he emerged with a resolve so unshakable that even his enemies could not deny it. Doesn't this mirror the way God uses hidden seasons to birth unshakable strength in his chosen? On the other hand, history also records the ruin of those who chose the path of manipulation. Herod, who sought to silence John the Baptist to preserve his pride and power, ended not in glory but in disgrace. Remembered not for his empire but for his weakness. Every manipulator meets their consequence, for truth has a way of writing its final word across eternity. And this, chosen one, is the turning point. The 17th of September wasn't about exposure to others, it was about the awakening of you. You are not called to bleed for approval anymore. You are called to rise, to walk with the confidence of one who knows heaven's gaze rests upon them. If God is for us, Who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Today marks your release from the prison of overgiving and your entrance into the sanctuary of alignment. Rise, chosen one. Step forward lighter, clearer, and stronger. For this lesson was never meant to break you. It was meant to unveil you. This is what transformation looks like in real time. No fireworks, no dramatic exits. Only quiet turns that redirect an entire journey. It's the river rounding a bend. You didn't notice until the shoreline changed. The wind shifting just enough to fill a different sail. One withheld reply. One boundary, unspoken yet firmly kept. One brave decision to let another carry the weight of their own emotions without rescuing them. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. When a day is set apart like this, how could a soft pivot carry so much power? As evening settles, something within feels lighter, rooted yet unburdened, strong in a way that makes explanation unnecessary. You're no longer chasing closure like a bird that has forgotten its sky. You're not forcing fragile ties to survive, like trees releasing their leaves in due season. You're letting what must fall. Fall. There is a time to be silent and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes 3:7. When silence finally aligns with truth, what else needs defending? The 17th of September was sacred because it ended the bargaining with your peace. From here, everything shifts. When you refuse to betray yourself to keep others comfortable, heaven aligns your steps with people and places that honor the same clarity. The field around you cleans itself like rain that clears the dust from long-traveled roads. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. Isn't it striking how peace, once guarded, becomes the compass rather than the prize? This day was never about endings. It was about alignment. It showed who can walk beside the future forming in you, and who served as a passing lesson on the way, like a lighthouse that refuses to move for restless ships. You are learning to stand where God has planted you. Take a slow breath tonight and let the weight slide off. Can two walk together unless they agree? Amos 3:3. When agreement with your calling becomes non-negotiable, what doors quietly close and which ones open wider than before? What happened today was a filter rather than a fight, a sorting that freed you from the subtle bargains you've made for years. The sky after rain looks nearer. The path after fog looks truer. Those small moments, the comment that clung too long, the smile that asked too much, the pause that felt holy were not random. They were clarity arriving without sirens. By their fruit you will recognize them. Matthew 7:16. And isn't fruit easiest to see when the noise finally stills? The arts echo the lesson. In Bach's Sainte, Matthew Passion. The aria, Erbarme dich. Mein Gott moves with a hush that carries more weight than thunder. The violin weeps softly while the soul bows low. Teaching that restraint can hold a heavier glory than shouting ever could. That same hush met you today, not conflict, not chaos, but clarity, clear enough to set you free from cycles that once felt inevitable. It opens a chapter where your energy is gathered, not scattered, where boundaries are honored, not negotiated, where silence signals wisdom, not weakness. As this day fades, you know what actually happened. You didn't just pass through hours, you crossed a threshold. You showed heaven you're ready for rooms that require steadiness, not performance. You showed your own heart that it can stand without explanation, and because of that, what lies ahead will not resemble what lies behind. Chosen one, rise. Guard the calm you won. Keep the door narrow where it must be narrow. Walk forward in holy quiet, and let your peace do the speaking. Chosen ones. This is the hinge where your story turns. The 17th of September was never about fear. It was about fidelity, choosing alignment over approval, covenant over convenience. You proved that silence can carry more authority than an argument, that a boundary can protect what God is building instead of breaking what love has blessed. From here on, access must match assignment. If someone cannot honor the atmosphere required for your becoming, your distance is wisdom, not war. Carry this with you. Your peace is not a luxury. It's your mandate. When the next soft test arrives, a familiar tone, a gentle pull, the subtle pressure to explain, hold steady. You do not owe anyone the version of you that grace has already outgrown. Let your yes be precious, your no be holy, and your silence be a sanctuary where God finishes what He started. If this message grounded you, tap like, share it with someone who needs clarity, and comment your key takeaway below. I read them and they matter. And if you want more teaching in this vein, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's next. Thank you for being here, truly. Whether you support through super thanks or simply with your presence, prayers, and attention, I'm grateful. Your time is a gift, and you've spent it wisely. Now, a blessing over you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and give you peace. May your discernment be sharp, your steps ordered, and your spirit unshakable on the 17th of September and every day after. Rise, beloved. Stay aligned. Walk in peace.